Okay, before we begin, are there any little kids around? Okay, I'll wait until you either get them out of the room or shut off the radio. And don't worry, you can come back and listen later online. All good? Okay. It's time to reveal some secrets about Santa Claus. I mean, it is Christmas, right? The idea of a Santa Claus-like creature goes all the way back to sometime around 270 A.D., when a wealthy farming couple named Epiphanius and Johann had a baby boy. They called the kid Nicholas. This was a bit weird since Epiphanius and Johann had already been married for 30 years. And for a woman to give birth in her late 40s, early 50s back then was unusual, miraculous even. Nicholas went into the priesthood, and he was made a bishop at a very, very young age. And then he died somewhere around his 45th birthday. 700 years later, his bones ended up in Italy, where he was proclaimed a saint, and a church was dedicated to him. And for some reason, French nuns began to give gifts in Nicholas's name every December 5th. St. Nicholas didn't have a long white beard until he somehow got screwed up with the pagan god Odin in the 1300s. He rode through the skies, leading souls to heaven on December the 21st of every year, and his mount was not 8 tiny reindeer, but an 8-legged horse. In the American colonies, celebrating Christmas and mentioning St. Nick was punishable by a fine of 5 shillings. See, the Pilgrims didn't really approve of any sort of partying or gift-giving on Christmas. And in fact, it wasn't until 1836 that Georgia became the first state to make Christmas a legal holiday. Sometime around 1860, Harper's Bazaar magazine came up with the idea that St. Nick, now called Santa Claus after another pagan myth mix-up involving a guy who slid down chimneys, lived at the North Pole. The biggest boost to Santa's image began in 1915 when the White Rock Beverage Company used drawings of Santa to sell mineral water and ginger ale. They took the red and white color scheme of Santa's costume that appeared on the cover of a magazine called Puck some years earlier. And then the Coca-Cola Company took over, using Santa in their ads, again dressed in red and white, from the 1930s forward. Oh, and one more thing. In 1902, L. Frank Baum, the guy who would later write The Wizard of Oz, declared that Santa was an immortal being in a book called The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus. So, there are some good secrets about the fat guy who breaks into your house and leaves stuff in exchange for cookies and milk. You're very welcome. Now let's move on to some secrets about rock, specifically Christmas rock.
This is The Secret History of Rock with Alan Cross.
Hello again, I'm Alan Cross, and I don't know what's wrong with me, because for almost 20 years I've been collecting strange Christmas songs. I spent a whole year looking around for Yuletide weirdness, and just before the big day I report back to everyone with what I found. So, if you're tired of the usual Christmas stuff, let me tell you something, you've come to the right place. Now, Christmas and holiday music can come in 3 forms. Number 1, the traditional, careful recordings of all-time Christmas favorites that will become part of the annual canon that will be played and sold for years to come. Number 2, brand new and very serious Christmas compilations recorded in the hopes that these recordings will become part of the annual canon that will be played and sold for years to come. Or the third type, the kind of stuff that's, probably going to send you on a sleigh ride to hell. Over the next couple of hours, we're going to hear all 3 types. And if I'm honest, probably more of the third sort. The kind that could give Grandma some kind of ischemic attack, so it's probably best if she's ushered out of the room along with the children. I just don't want to be responsible for any incidents or accidents, okay? We'll start with the Ravenettes, the 2-piece indie group from Denmark. They started releasing Christmas music in 2003. In 2008, they issued an EP entitled We Wish You a Rave Christmas. And this is probably the best song from that collection. It's called Come On, Santa.